welcome to the Sports Jawn. This is Ryan Wolfson. In our episodes that we will have, we'll be talking anything football, basketball, men's, women, pro, college, any other sports topics that we might find interesting to talk about throughout the year. But as the football season is arriving, our segments to start off the season will be all NFL related and fantasy football related. We'll be doing fantasy football first since the NFL season will probably start after your fantasy football draft in most cases. So in each different segment, I'll break down positions and then I'll give you some rookies for this year and sleepers for this year based on their ADP or average draft position. So for today's segment, we're going to start and talk about the quarterbacks. So I have 5 quarterbacks to me that are in the top tier. And I'm doing this based on a 6-point touchdown for the quarterbacks for throwing. To me, by the way, side note, it makes no sense to do 4 because you're penalizing guys, for example, like Joe Burrow, while upping guys like Kyler Murray. And anyone in the NFL circles knows they're not even similar. And to me, it's just kind of defeats the whole purpose too, especially when if you run a touchdown in, catch a touchdown in, return a touchdown on the defense or special teams, you get 6. Don't get it, but it is what it is. So this is based off 6-point per passing touchdowns, and I think there's a top tier of 5 guys, and you'll see my rankings right there, the top 5. The one I want to talk about though the most, it might not be getting as much love this year, is Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes offensively might be better than he has in the previous few years. One, because I don't think their defense is good. I think their opponents, especially in their division, are a lot better. I think they're going to have to throw a lot more because they're not going to be just destroying people and leading people throughout the game like in years past. Doesn't mean the Chiefs still won't be a playoff team or can't win their division, but I just think there's a lot of factors going into Mahomes having to throw the ball more this year. Not to mention, from their running game perspective, and this has always been the case, but they don't really have a star runner. It's more going to be a committee. And I just see that Patrick Mahomes is going to have to do more, and he has the ability to run. I think he's just going to have to do a lot more playmaking from the quarterback position. And because in the last 2 years he's been a borderline low-end QB1, people are a little out on Patrick Mahomes, especially after the Super Bowl loss. And I just think that he's going to have a bounce-back year. In my next tier, as you will see in my rankings, I think there's a second tier, and that'll be basically like the next 5 guys. The one guy I want to talk about is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, before last year, was a top 12 quarterback previous 2 seasons. He was the number 1 overall pick. And I believe that the offense and the energy, like in any sports environment, can infect the play on the field. And I do believe that the energy and the attitudes and the staleness of the Doug Peterson offense kind of just made everyone look, whether it was ETN, Lawrence, etc., except for Brian Thomas because he was a rookie, just kind of looked last year like they don't have weapons. Liam Cohen, the last couple of years, has been a great offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay. He will be taking over in Jacksonville. Generally, when an offensive-minded coach takes over a new team, especially when you have a good, definitely above average quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, you generally see it take a step forward. I don't think they have a great defense, so they're going to be having to, very similar to Patrick Mahomes, they're going to have to be thrown a lot. They're not going to be leading. And I just think, again, similar to Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence has sneaky rushing ability as well for a quarterback. And I just expect their offense to take a big step this year with the additions of Travis Hunter and De'Ami Brown to go along with receivers like Parker Washington and Brian Thomas. And even though they lost Evan Ingram, they still have Bretton Strange. I think they have four good backs, and a couple of them can catch passes. I just think Jacksonville's going to be a very explosive offense. And again, prior to last year, the previous 2 years, Trevor Lawrence was a top 12 quarterback both years, so I have him as my 10th quarterback for the season. The next tier I would probably say is about 6 people. There's a couple people I want to talk about in this tier. One is Geno Smith from the Las Vegas Raiders. Geno won't have any rushing ability. They're going to be a run-first offense. But I think this is going to be a top 10 offense in football. Very similar to what Baker Mayfield's been the last 2 years. I could see Geno Smith doing. I think people are undervaluing the weapons that he has at his hands. You have Brock Bowers, everyone loves him, but you have Jacoby Myers, you have this rookie Deontay Thornton, and then you have Gentry. I just look at this offense as going to be scoring a lot and in a lot of games, like a lot of these other previous teams. So they're going, even though they have the star runner and they want to run ball, they might not be able to do it in the fourth because they might be losing. So I just really like the prospects of Geno Smith as a low-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2. And this is important, just to let you know, these are the quarterbacks that you might want to be targeting, especially if you go 0 quarterback in a 10 to 12 team league, or if you're going into a 2 quarterback league. That's why I'll be going, basically, I'm going to rank top 25 quarterbacks in case you do have a top 2 quarterback league. If you don't get one of those top league quarterbacks and you want to take 2 middle of the pack quarterbacks, these are some guys I'd be targeting. Another guy I want to talk about, kind of floating under the radar, is Bryce Young from Carolina. I'm a little bit more bullish on Carolina than most people are this year. I think their offense is going to be very, very well under Dave Canales in the second year. The last 4 games of the season last year, Bryce Young had over 20 fantasy points 3 of the 4 games. He is a former number one overall pick out of Ohio State, highly recruited. I look at the weapons they have now on offense. I think it's loaded. Except for Thielen, everybody is young. You have this first round pick, McMillan. You still have Thielen, like I said. You have last year's Leggett receiver. Then you have a guy, for example, you have Coker as well, another receiver. And then you have Sanders, another young tight end. Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdy. This team is loaded on offense. You have an offensive-minded coach with a quarterback who improved towards the end of last year on a team that is definitely floating on the radar with a quarterback second year in the system should be better. I think, again, Geno Smith, Bryce Young, these are quarterbacks. If you're in a 2 quarterback league and you don't get one of the top ones, take both of them. Or like I said, if you go 0 quarterback strategy in a 10-12 team league and you want to take a gamble and you take two quarterbacks, these are guys that I'd be looking at. Then the next tier to me are guys that have, I guess you would say, high floors, low ceilings. And that's probably about the next 4 quarterbacks. There's 2 in particular. Actually, there's 2 in particular I want to talk about. J.J. McCarthy from the Vikings. Everyone is really low on the Vikings this year because they lost Sam Darnold, and they tried to re-sign him. Well, yeah, because Sam Darnold's one of the 10 best quarterbacks in football last year. Why wouldn't you want to re-sign him? But at the same time, J.J. McCarthy was a first-round pick, played at a big-time school, and I believe 2 things. One, I believe this team will be more balanced as far as running the football versus passing the football in previous years. I also believe that Kevin O'Connell is a great head coach, great offensive mind, and he's not going to ask J.J. McCarthy to do much. He's going to ask him to manage the game. Make some plays on third down with your legs and your arm. Don't turn the football over. And we're just going to run the football because we have maybe the best defense in the league. And that's why I just don't understand why people are really low in Minnesota this year. Because if you take, I'm making it up, a guy that most people consider average type of quarterback in the league, Jared Goff, Geno Smith, and you put him on there instead of J.J. McCarthy, everyone's saying about how this is the team that's probably going to rival the Eagles in the NFC. So no one is expecting anything from J.J. McCarthy, and I think he's going to be the middle, like I said, the 15th and 20th best quarterback this year, and I just think that most people have him as like a bottom 5 quarterback, and I think that's just not the case. Another guy, too, is, again, people are sleeping on as well, is Daniel Jones for the Indianapolis Colts. A few years ago, he had a top 10 season. He's already shown the ability that he can run the football. In his 8 starts last year, 4 of the 8, he was a top 12 quarterback. And I think he's going into a situation where he's going to do very well in Indianapolis. Again, a team that is loaded with talent. Jonathan Taylor and DJ Giddens at the running back position. Tyler Warren at the tight end position. And you have 3, in my opinion, B receivers with Pittman, Pierce, and Downs. And then you have the rising second-year player, Mitchell. This team is stacked with talent. Again, similar to J.J. McCarthy, they're not going to ask Daniel Jones to play hero ball like some of these other quarterbacks that might be in the top 10 on my list. And I just think the ability to run the football, the offense that he has, again, they're not going to be expecting much from him. In that 15 to 20 range to me is a really good value of where I see Daniel Jones being this year. The guys that I have at the bottom of the list, and it's not necessarily I think they're going to finish at the bottom of this list. It's that in a redraft, this is not a dynasty. What I'm going to be talking about. This isn't a redraft. So it's all about winning this year, and it's all about capitalizing and calculating the risks for the season. And for example, a guy like Matthew Stafford, loaded offense, if he's healthy, great. But he has a serious back issue. I'm not sure if he's going to last the whole season. And if he is, and if he plays, is he going to actually be a game manager? Or is he going to be the Matthew Stafford we know where he can throw for 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns? That's a risk there. A guy like Justin Fields never finished the full season, even though he has the ability to run at a high level, and he's clearly the quarterback in the Jets. He never played a full season. That's on a team that is not going to throw the football a lot, on an offense that's not going to be good, with a guy that's never finished the full season. There's a lot of risk there in drafting Justin Fields. Or guys like Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott. I look at two different things. Dak Prescott is locked up long term coming off a serious injury. And even if they don't think he's a future for Dallas this year, I think Dallas is one of the 5 worst teams in football. And if that's the case at a certain point in the season, they're not going to want him to get hurt. They're going to just put Joe Milton in, see what he is, because they're going to be next year's quarterback class is great. And they're going to be drafting really high. Why would you want to ruin an asset that you could trade? Or, again, if you really want Dak Prescott to be the quarterback of the future, and there's nothing there, play Joe Milton, see what he is. If not, and maybe you get some trade value from him. And the other guy is Kyler Murray. I think this is last year Kyler Murray in Arizona. I feel like if they don't start winning games early, he could be benched for Jacoby Brissett. I believe that's the main reason why Jacoby Brissett was brought in, is that if Kyler Murray doesn't start winning games, that he will be benched. And that's the other thing too. Every year that Kyler Murray's plays, he's at somewhere between 8th and 12th best quarterback. But again, these last two guys I'm just talking about, if they play their top 15 quarterbacks, probably low-end quarterback ones, but they might not play at the end of the season. And guess what? When I'm drafting a quarterback, I want to make sure that he's available for me come fantasy playoff time. Because guess what? That's all that matters, is having the best, healthiest roster come playoffs. So that's my take on the quarterbacks. If you have any comments, please, or any questions, please leave them in the comment section. If you have any comments, you can also leave them in the comment section as well. And that's a Sports Jawn, and my name is Ryan Wolfson.